The rain poured down in sheets, drowning the streets, until she saw him. "Excuse me, sir," Rose called, her voice almost lost in the storm. "Do you need help with your car?" He looked up, blue eyes locking onto hers. Silence hung in the air, broken only by the hiss of the dying engine. I think so. It just stopped working," he admitted. His voice carried the accent of privilege. "Do you happen to know anything about engines?" Rose smiled faintly. "More than a little." "May I?" He stepped aside. She dropped her worn bag, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. Fingers moving with practiced precision, she adjusted wires, tightened bolts, checked connections, all while the rain soaked through her jacket. And he watched her, curiosity, and something more, growing with every move she made. One car. One girl. And in that storm, two worlds were about to collide. "Sit tight, let me tell you a story. You don't want to miss a single moment. Make sure to like, subscribe, and watch till the very end." The rain came down in sheets that evening, drumming against rooftops, splashing against the cracked sidewalks, and flooding the narrow streets of the bustling city. Rose clutched her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders as she hurried down the road. Her shoes, already worn thin from months of overuse, squelched with every step. The cold rain seeped through her clothes, but she didn't care. She had one more errand to run before heading home to her little sister, who was waiting with nothing but a pot of rice that barely filled half a bowl. Rose's life had never been easy. Since their parents passed away, she had become both sister and mother to young Lily, doing odd jobs to keep them alive. Sometimes she cleaned houses, other times she worked at the market. But her favorite and most unusual skill was repairing cars. She had learned it from her late father, who was a mechanic. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. And tonight, fate would use that very skill to turn her world upside down. As Rose passed under a flickering streetlight, she noticed a sleek black car pulled over to the side of the road. The engine hummed weakly before sputtering out completely. She slowed her pace. The car was unlike anything she had ever been this close to, an expensive Mercedes, polished to perfection even in the pouring rain. The driver's door swung open, and a man stepped out, his suit dampened instantly by the downpour. He was tall, with sharp features softened only by the way his dark hair clung to his forehead from the rain. His watch glimmered under the streetlight, a brand Rose had only ever seen in magazines. He pressed his lips together in frustration as he stared under the hood of the car, completely clueless about what to do. Rose hesitated. Approaching him felt strange. After all, what would a wealthy man like him want from someone like her? But then she thought of Lily waiting at home and her father's voice in her head, "Never walk past someone in need if you can help." "Excuse me, sir," Rose said, her voice nearly drowned out by the rain. "Do you need help with your car?" The man looked up, his blue eyes locking onto hers. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the rain and the hiss of the dying engine. Then he exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I think so. It just stopped working," he admitted. His voice carried a refined accent, the kind that revealed a life of privilege. "Do you happen to know anything about engines?" Rose's lips tugged into a small smile. "More than a little." "May I?" He stepped aside, watching as she dropped her worn bag on the ground and rolled up her sleeves. She leaned over the hood, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Despite the cold rain soaking through her jacket, Rose worked quickly, tightening bolts, adjusting wires, and checking the battery connections. The man's gaze never left her, his curiosity growing with every move she made. "You know," he finally said, raising a brow, "it's not every day I meet a lady who can do this." Rose chuckled softly. "It's not every day I meet someone who looks this helpless around an engine." For the first time that night, he laughed, a warm, genuine sound that surprised even him. After 20 minutes of careful work, Rose stepped back. "Try it now," she instructed, wiping her hands on her damp clothes. The man climbed into the car and turned the key. The engine roared back to life, strong and steady. Relief washed over his face as he stepped out again, his eyes brighter than before. "You've saved me," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "What's your name?" "Rose," she replied simply. "Rose." He repeated her name slowly, as though tasting it for the first time. Then he offered his hand. "I'm Daniel." His palm was warm despite the cold rain, and for a brief moment, Rose felt a strange spark run through her. She quickly pulled her hand back, embarrassed by the sudden rush of emotion. Daniel studied her for a moment longer before reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a crisp note and extended it to her. "For your trouble." Rose froze. Something about the gesture stung. She wasn't helping for money, not tonight. Straightening her shoulders, she shook her head firmly. "No, thank you. I didn't do it for payment." Daniel blinked, clearly taken aback. "You mean, you don't want it?" Rose smiled faintly. "Some things are worth more than money." For the first time in his charmed, wealthy life, Daniel found himself disarmed. People always wanted something from him: his name, his connections, his wealth. Yet this woman, standing in the rain with worn shoes and soaked clothes, had turned down what most people would have snatched without hesitation. A silence stretched between them, filled only by the rain and the distant rumble of thunder. Finally, Daniel slipped the money back into his pocket. "Then at least, allow me to give you a ride home. It's the least I can do." Rose hesitated. She rarely trusted strangers, especially ones who looked like they belonged to a world far beyond hers. But something in his voice, gentle, sincere, made her nod. "All right," she said softly. The drive was quiet at first. Rose sat stiffly in the passenger seat, the leather so smooth it felt like sitting on air. She glanced at Daniel, noticing how focused he was on the road, his jaw set in quiet thought. Finally, he broke the silence. "You know, Rose, you've done something no one else has in a long time." "What's that?" she asked, turning to face him. "You've surprised me." Her cheeks warmed despite the cold. She quickly looked away, focusing on the raindrops racing down the window. When they finally pulled up to her street, Daniel's expression shifted. The neighborhood was humble, the kind of place he had only ever seen from afar. Children played barefoot in puddles, and women sat outside small shops despite the rain. He turned to her, curious. "You live here?" Rose nodded. "Yes." "Why?" Daniel shook his head slightly. "No reason. Just, I didn't expect it." Rose unbuckled her seatbelt and reached for the door handle. "Thank you for the ride, Daniel. And for trusting me with your car." He hesitated before replying. "I should be thanking you. Truly." His eyes softened. "I hope this isn't the last time we meet, Rose." She paused, her hand lingering on the door. A part of her wanted to dismiss it, to remind herself that men like him didn't cross paths with women like her more than once. But another part, deep down, felt that this encounter was only the beginning of something she couldn't yet name. With a small nod, she stepped out into the rain, clutching her jacket tightly as she disappeared into the shadows of her street. Daniel watched her go, a strange tug in his chest that left him unsettled yet intrigued. As his car pulled away, Daniel couldn't shake the thought, who exactly was Rose? And why did she feel like the one thing in his world that money could never buy? The rain had stopped by the next morning, but Daniel couldn't shake the memory of Rose from his mind. Her steady hands, her refusal of his money, and the quiet dignity in her eyes replayed again and again. He had met countless people in his life, business partners, socialites, even women who fought for his attention, but none had unsettled him like she did. At the breakfast table, Daniel pushed food around his plate absent-mindedly. His mother, a woman of elegance and sharp poise, raised her brows. "Daniel, you've hardly eaten. Something on your mind?" His father, Richard, set down his coffee cup, his tone more commanding. "Business troubles?" Daniel shook his head. "No, not business." His mother leaned in. "Then what is it?" Daniel hesitated. He knew how his parents thought. Reputation, status, appearances, those things mattered more than anything. Telling them about Rose now would be like tossing fuel into a fire. Still, he found himself speaking. "I met someone last night." His mother's eyes lit up with curiosity. "Someone?" "A woman," Daniel admitted. Richard gave a short laugh. "Another party girl, I presume?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "No. She's different. She helped me when my car broke down." His mother frowned slightly. "A mechanic?" "Not exactly." She knows about cars, yes, but she's different. Honest. Real. Not like the people we usually see. The dining room grew quiet. His mother exchanged a look with Richard, one Daniel didn't miss. "We'll discuss this later," Richard said firmly, his tone leaving no room for argument. Meanwhile, Rose carried on with her day as if nothing extraordinary had happened. She scrubbed the floors of a small cafe in the morning, sold vegetables at the market in the afternoon, and hurried home before dusk to check on Lily. But no matter how she tried, the memory of Daniel lingered. The way he had looked at her, not with pity, not with judgment, but with something else, stirred feelings she hadn't allowed herself in years. That evening, as she returned from the market with a basket of bread, a familiar black Mercedes parked at the end of her street. Her heart skipped. Daniel stepped out, looking out of place in his tailored shirt and polished shoes, but smiling as if he belonged there. "Rose," he greeted warmly. She blinked. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I told you I didn't want that to be the last time we met," he said, stepping closer. "I hope you don't mind." Rose hesitated, torn between caution and curiosity. "It's not safe for someone like you here," she warned. He chuckled. "Then maybe you'll keep me safe." Despite herself, Rose laughed softly. It felt strange but natural, as though he had always belonged in her world. They walked together, and Daniel insisted on carrying her basket. Neighbors watched curiously from their doorsteps, whispering about the wealthy stranger walking beside Rose. She ignored them, but inside, her heart raced. As days turned into weeks, Daniel found reasons to visit Rose often. Sometimes he brought Lily small gifts, school supplies, books, and once even a box of chocolates that made her squeal with delight. Other times, he and Rose simply talked under the fading glow of streetlights. They spoke of dreams, regrets, and the different worlds they lived in. "I envy you, Rose," Daniel confessed one evening. She turned to him, startled. "Envy me? Why?" "You're free," he said softly. "Free from the chains of money, reputation, expectations. My whole life has been scripted. Yours, it's raw, real. You live each day with courage." Rose looked at him, unsure how to respond. "Daniel, don't romanticize poverty. There's nothing glamorous about struggling to survive." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But there's something powerful in the way you rise above it." Her heart stirred at his words, but she quickly looked away, afraid of what her feelings might grow into. Back at the mansion, however, things were far from peaceful. Daniel's mother, Victoria, grew restless. She had heard whispers from friends who had spotted Daniel in a poor neighborhood. One afternoon, she confronted him directly in the study. "Daniel," she began, her voice cool and deliberate. "Is it true you've been spending time with that girl?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Her name is Rose." "And yes." Victoria's lips thinned. "This is unacceptable. Do you realize what this could do to our family's reputation? To the company's image?" "She's not what you think, Mother," Daniel shot back. "She's kind, intelligent, strong." "She's poor," Victoria cut in sharply. "And no amount of kind or strong will change that fact. People will talk. Investors will doubt you. Do you want to drag the company name through the mud for a mechanic?" Daniel's chest tightened. He had expected resistance, but not such cruelty. "I'm not marrying the company, Mother. I'm choosing my life. My happiness." Richard entered then, his voice firm. "Enough. Daniel, this relationship ends now. You will not disgrace us. Do you understand?" Daniel rose to his feet, his jaw set. "No. I won't let you dictate my heart." Victoria's eyes flashed with anger, but beneath it was a flicker of fear, fear of losing control over her only son. The tension boiled over days later when Richard took matters into his own hands. He had Rose summoned to his office, an intimidating space filled with polished wood, expensive paintings, and the heavy weight of power. Rose stepped inside nervously, clutching her worn handbag. Richard sat behind his massive desk, his expression unreadable. "You must know why you're here," he began. Rose swallowed hard. "I suppose." "My son," Richard said, leaning forward, "has been distracted." "By you." "This cannot continue. You and I both know your worlds are too far apart." Rose said nothing, her hands trembling slightly. Richard opened a drawer and slid an envelope across the desk. "Here is 5 million naira. Take it. Leave my son. Build a new life for yourself and your sister. Do the wise thing." Rose stared at the envelope. For a moment, her mind flashed to Lily. New clothes, proper schooling, food on the table every night. The temptation was sharp, almost unbearable. But then she pictured Daniel's smile, the way he looked at her with sincerity, and the promises he had whispered under the night sky. She straightened her shoulders, lifting her chin. "I will not take your money," she said firmly. Richard's eyes hardened. "Think carefully, Rose. You'll regret this." Rose met his gaze without flinching. "Maybe. But I'd regret betraying Daniel more." She turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing in the silent office. That evening, Daniel found her waiting at their usual spot, a faint smile on her lips. "Your father tried to buy me off today," she told him quietly. Daniel's face darkened, fury flashing in his eyes. "What did you say?" "I said no." Relief washed over him, followed by admiration. He took her hands gently in his. "Rose, I swear to you, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, I'm not letting go. You're the only thing in my life that feels real." Rose's eyes filled with tears, though she fought to hold them back. "And you're the only thing in mine that feels like hope." They stood together in the twilight, two souls from different worlds bound by a love that neither wealth nor power could shake. The weeks that followed felt like a storm neither Daniel nor Rose could escape. Everywhere Daniel went, whispers followed. Business partners pulled him aside with sly questions. Friends teased with sharp laughter. And at home, his parents' disappointment grew heavier by the day. But Daniel didn't waver. Each evening, he found his way back to Rose's neighborhood, where children greeted him with cheers and Lily clung to his arm as though he were already family. Those moments reminded him why he fought so hard, because with Rose, he was free. Yet the more inseparable they became, the more desperate Richard and Victoria grew. One evening, as Daniel returned from Rose's street, his mother was waiting in the grand hall. Her gown shimmered under the chandelier, but her eyes burned with cold fury. "Daniel," she began sharply, "this has gone far enough. You're humiliating us." Daniel dropped his keys on the table, his voice calm but firm. "If loving Rose is humiliation, then I'll gladly wear it." Victoria's lips tightened. "You think this is love? It's infatuation. A poor girl dazzled by your wealth." "She doesn't want my wealth," Daniel snapped. "She turned down father's money. Do you know anyone else who would?" Victoria faltered, caught off guard, but quickly regained her composure. "She'll ruin you. She'll ruin us." "No, mother," Daniel said softly. "She's the only one who's ever saved me." He left her standing in silence, shaken by the truth in his voice. Meanwhile, Richard had not given up. If Rose would not be bought, then perhaps she could be broken. Late one night, Rose heard footsteps behind her as she walked home from the cafe. She clutched her bag tighter, her heart pounding. Then a voice called out, "Rose." She turned to see Richard himself, standing beneath the dim glow of a street lamp. His polished shoes splashed into puddles as he approached, his face unreadable. "You're still here," he said coldly. Rose swallowed hard. "Yes. You're stubborn. That can be admirable, or dangerous." He paused, letting the words sink in. "If you truly care for my son, you'll leave him. Before this goes too far." Rose shook her head. "I can't. I love him." Richard's eyes narrowed. "Then understand this, if you stay, you'll bring nothing but suffering. For yourself, for Lily, for Daniel. Do you want that blood on your hands?" Rose's chest tightened. The weight of his words pressed down on her. She thought of Lily's smile, her small hands clutching schoolbooks Daniel had bought. She thought of Daniel's laughter, his promises. Could love withstand the storm his parents threatened to unleash? Still, she found her voice. "I'd rather face suffering with Daniel than live in comfort without him." For the first time, Richard's stern mask cracked. He stared at her, as if searching for weakness, then turned sharply and walked away, his figure disappearing into the shadows. The pressure grew unbearable. Daniel noticed it in Rose's eyes, the way she forced a smile when Lily was near, the quiet sighs when she thought no one was listening. One night, as they sat outside her small house, he reached for her hand. "Rose, are you all right?" She hesitated. "Daniel, your parents, they'll never accept me. I don't want to be the reason you lose them." Daniel tightened his grip. "Rose, listen to me. I'd rather lose the world than lose you." Her eyes filled with tears. "And if they make you choose?" "Then I choose you," he said without hesitation. The certainty in his voice stole her breath. She wanted to believe it, but fear gnawed at her heart. As the weeks dragged on, the family's disapproval turned into schemes. Victoria arranged dinners with Emily, the daughter of her wealthy friend, a young entrepreneur who was polished, charming, and by all accounts, perfect. At one such dinner, Daniel sat at the long table, his face impassive as Emily spoke animatedly about her business ventures. Victoria's eyes gleamed with pride, casting hopeful glances between them. But Daniel's mind was elsewhere, on Rose, on her laughter, on the way she looked at him like he was simply a man, not a billionaire. When Emily placed her hand on his arm, he gently pulled away, his voice cool. "You're remarkable, Emily," he said politely. "But I'm already in love. And nothing will change that." Victoria's smile faltered. Richard's jaw clenched. Emily looked between them, confused. The dinner ended in tense silence. Back in Rose's neighborhood, Daniel found solace. He arrived at her door late that night, rain dripping from his hair, his eyes tired but burning with determination. "They're trying everything," he admitted. "They want me to marry someone else. They'll never stop." Rose's heart ached. "Then maybe I should stop it, Daniel. Maybe I should walk away." "No," he said fiercely, pulling her into his arms. "Don't you dare. You're my light in all this darkness. If you go, I'll be lost." Rose buried her face in his chest, torn between fear and love. In that moment, she realized that leaving him wouldn't save him, it would destroy him. And so she made her choice. She would stay. The city buzzed with gossip. Tabloids caught wind of the poor girl and the billionaire. Photos of Daniel in Rose's neighborhood circulated online. Some mocked, others admired, but everyone talked. At the mansion, Victoria sat alone one evening, scrolling through the headlines. The cruel words stung, but what struck her most were the photos, not of scandal, but of joy. Daniel laughing with Lily. Rose looking at him with unshakable affection. For all the noise, the truth was undeniable. Her son was happy. That night, for the first time, doubt crept into her heart. Still, Richard remained immovable. "He's blinded," he told Victoria. "This girl will ruin everything we've built." But Victoria's voice softened. "Or maybe, she'll save him." Richard turned sharply, stunned by her words. "Look at him," she pressed. "Have you seen him this alive in years? He's not a boy anymore, Richard. He's a man. And he's chosen her." Richard said nothing, but the silence was louder than any protest. Meanwhile, Rose and Daniel stood together under the streetlights where it had all begun. The rain returned, gentle and steady, soaking through their clothes. Daniel cupped her face in his hands. "Rose, no matter what comes, promise me you won't let go." "I promise," she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and conviction. As the rain fell around them, sealing their vow, both knew that the hardest battles still lay ahead. But they also knew this: their love was real. Stronger than pride, stronger than wealth, stronger than every force trying to tear them apart. The storm that had raged for months finally began to calm. Rumors still swirled, whispers still followed them, but Daniel and Rose no longer flinched. Their love had become an anchor, binding them together through every trial. One evening, Daniel brought Rose and Lily to a small charity gala in the city. Cameras flashed, voices called, but he held her hand proudly, introducing her to everyone as the woman he loved. The hall went silent. For a moment, all that could be heard was the clicking of cameras. Then, to everyone's surprise, applause broke out. Some mocked, yes, but others admired the courage it took for the young billionaire to stand beside a woman the world deemed unworthy. From the far side of the hall, Richard and Victoria watched. Richard's face was unreadable, but Victoria's eyes glistened as she took in the scene. Her son's joy, Rose's quiet grace, Lily's innocent laughter as she tugged at Daniel's sleeve. Later that night, Daniel's parents summoned him home. Rose feared the worst, but Daniel went, his head high. In the study, Richard sat by the fireplace, his expression heavy with thought. Victoria stood nearby, her gaze softer than it had been in months. Daniel braced himself. "If you've called me here to make me choose again, I'll save you the trouble. My answer hasn't changed. I love Rose, and I won't let her go." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, to his shock, it was his mother who spoke first. "We see it now, Daniel," Victoria said, her voice trembling. "We see how much she means to you, and how much you mean to her." Daniel's breath caught. "Mother!" Richard leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Son, I may not agree with your choice, but I can no longer deny it. That girl, she refused my money. She withstood our threats. She's still by your side. That kind of loyalty, even I cannot ignore." For the first time in months, Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Are you saying—" Victoria nodded slowly. "Yes. If she's the one who makes you truly happy, then we will support you." Daniel exhaled a shaky laugh, overwhelmed with relief. "Thank you. You don't know what this means." Richard stood, his movements deliberate, and placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "Don't prove us wrong, Daniel. Love is easy when it's new. But when it's tested, hold on to it. Don't let pride or fear destroy what you fought so hard to keep." Daniel nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. Days later, when Daniel shared the news with Rose, she wept openly, clutching his hands as Lily clapped with childish joy. For the first time, the weight lifted from their shoulders. Their love had survived judgment, threats, and rejection, and in the end, it had won acceptance. And that's how love conquered every obstacle. But this is just one story. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tale that will touch your heart. Watch till the very end. You never know what twists are coming next.